If you call yourself a high-value woman but still ignore these 12 dating red flags, you're not protecting your worth, you're handing it over. Meet Brielle. She had the kind of beauty that turned head when she walked into a room, soft, caramel skin that glowed without trying, almond eyes framed by thick lashes, and a voice that made people lean in. On paper, Brielle was unstoppable. A six-figure career in PR, a downtown condo, a dream wardrobe. She had built herself from scratch after growing up in a home where love was earned, not given. That's where it started, the quiet conditioning. Her mother had spent decades chasing the bare minimum from a man who made promises, then disappeared for days. Brielle watched her apologize for things she didn't do, swallow her pride just to keep the peace, and call it loyalty. So when Brielle met Jaden, a smooth-talking charmer who said all the right things but showed up all the wrong ways, she didn't recognize the danger. At first, it felt electric. He'd text her "Good morning, beautiful" one day, then ghost her for 3. When she'd ask why, he'd chuckle and say she was too emotional or doing too much. And somehow, she would end up apologizing. She started rearranging her schedule to fit his. Canceled her girls' trip because he got jealous. Spent hours baking his favorite dessert just for him to scroll on his phone and grunt a thanks. One night, she waited outside his apartment in the freezing cold, teary-eyed, arms crossed, ears tingling and hot with humiliation, because he forgot to let her in. Again. But the worst part? It wasn't the disrespect. It was how she began to doubt her own value. How she stared at her reflection with blank eyes, wondering if maybe she was asking for too much. How her heart would pound any time his name popped up on her phone, not with excitement, but with fear of what mood he'd be in. She thought she was being loyal. He saw her as easy to control. And every time she forgave him without accountability, he pushed the line a little further. There was a strange viciousness in his eyes the last time they argued, like he enjoyed watching her unravel. And that night, something inside Brielle snapped. She looked at herself in the mirror, mascara streaked, jaw trembling, and whispered, "I can't do this anymore." Radiant rebels, if you've ever dimmed your light to make someone love you more. If you've ever thought, maybe if I just give a little more. This video is your wake-up call. We're breaking down 12 things high-value women never do in relationships, so you don't waste another second proving your worth to someone who never deserved it. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and like this video if you're done settling. Let's level up your love life together. And if you've ever been Brielle, share this with someone who needs to hear it. You might just save them. Part 1: Needy energy kills attraction. Radiant rebels, let's be real, there's nothing magnetic about chasing someone who's running in the opposite direction. That anxious, overgiving energy? It doesn't come off as loving. It comes off as insecure. And high-value women don't beg for crumbs. They command the whole table. Over-explaining yourself or your past. When you constantly feel the need to explain your choices, your mistakes, or your past relationships, what you're really saying is, please don't leave. It might come from a place of wanting to be understood, but it feels like you're defending your worth. And trust me, a man who's truly interested will ask thoughtful questions without making you feel judged. If you catch yourself over-explaining, pause. Take a breath. You don't owe anyone a history report just to be accepted. Texting or double texting when you're being ignored. Let's call this what it is, self-abandonment. You know he saw the message. You know he could reply. But instead of matching his energy, you try harder. You send a follow-up. You wonder if your first text was too boring. And while you're spiraling, he's busy living his life, unbothered. That second text? It doesn't bring you closer. It sends a message that you're available no matter how little he gives. A high-value woman never teaches someone to disrespect her time. Always initiating plans or chasing him. It's exhausting being the one who always reaches out, plans the dates, checks in, and makes everything happen. You start to feel more like his assistant than his partner. And the worst part? He gets comfortable. Lazy. He stops putting in effort because he knows you'll fill the gap. If you're always initiating, stop. Let the silence sit. If he wants you, he'll show up. And if he doesn't? He never deserved the access in the first place. Changing your opinions just to impress him. You liked rom-coms yesterday, but now you hate them because he said they're dumb. You loved your bold red lipstick, but suddenly you're toning it down because he made a joke about girls trying too hard. Sound familiar? When you shift your personality to keep a man interested, you're not being loved, you're being tolerated. And you'll always feel a little anxious because deep down, you know you're performing. The truth? The right man will be drawn to your real preferences, quirks, and voice. When you water yourself down, you attract people who can't handle your full power. Radiant rebels, this is your reminder, needy energy isn't love. It's fear wearing a mask. And fear never built an unshakable relationship. Part 2, Settling for Bare Minimum Treatment. Radiant rebels, there's nothing empowering about calling crumbs a feast. When you accept less than you deserve, you start teaching your heart to stay where it's not being nourished. Here's how to spot the subtle ways you might be settling, and how to stop. Accepting vague answers or emotional unavailability. When he says things like "I'm just going with the flow" or "let's not label this yet," what he's really doing is keeping the door open just enough for you to stay hooked, but never fully let in. And while you're clinging to potential, he's enjoying your presence without the pressure of commitment. A high-value woman doesn't get stuck waiting for clarity. She seeks alignment, not confusion. If he can't speak with intention, you're not the one he's building with. You're the one he's passing time with. Ignoring red flags because you're trying to be understanding. There's a difference between being compassionate and being a cushion for his dysfunction. If he's dismissive, inconsistent, or overly jealous, but you keep making excuses because he had a hard childhood or he's just stressed, you're teaching him that love means no accountability. True understanding doesn't mean tolerating behavior that breaks your spirit. You can care about someone's pain without allowing it to poison your peace. Letting him decide the pace of the relationship. When you're always waiting on him to define what you are, when you see each other, or whether this is serious, you're not in a relationship, you're on a leash. Your needs matter. Your timeline matters. If you don't voice them, you'll always feel like you're on standby, hoping he eventually chooses you. But radiant rebels don't wait around to be chosen. They choose themselves first and let that energy attract the kind of man who steps up, not string along. Staying after disrespect just because you've invested time. Time doesn't heal what you refuse to leave. The longer you stay in something toxic, hoping he'll change because you've been through too much together, the deeper you sink into resentment. Love isn't built on endurance alone. It's built on mutual respect. If you're staying just because you've already stayed, you're only stacking pain on top of pain. And let's be clear, loyalty to dysfunction isn't strength. It's self-neglect disguised as hope. Part 3. Sacrificing yourself to be chosen. When you shrink your life to fit inside someone else's, you're not being loving, you're disappearing. This is where so many beautiful, powerful women lose themselves chasing a fantasy that was never mutual to begin with. Ditching your friends or goals for a man. The slow fade begins when you start canceling on your best friends, skipping workouts, or pushing your goals to the side, just to be available for him. He doesn't have to ask, you just offer. But here's the truth, the man meant for you won't require you to abandon the woman you're becoming. He'll make space for her. If your world starts to revolve around him, you'll wake up one day realizing you're orbiting someone who never once revolved around you. Thinking being low maintenance makes you more lovable. There's a toxic lie that says, if I ask for less, he'll stay longer. So you act like nothing bothers you. You say you're fine when you're not. You convince yourself you don't need flowers, dates, effort, because you're chill, right? But this kind of cool girl act is rooted in fear, not love. You don't become more lovable by needing less. You become forgettable. Real connection isn't about pretending. It's about showing up fully and letting someone rise to meet you. Hiding your standards to seem cool. You tell him you don't care where he takes you. You laugh off the fact that he hasn't planned anything real. But every time you shrink your expectations to match his lack of effort, you lower your value in his eyes, and in your own. Men respect boundaries. And the ones who don't aren't worth keeping. Bragging about doing too much for a man who gives you too little. You cooked, cleaned, helped him with his business, paid his bills, and listened to his problems like his therapist. But did he show up for you when you needed support? Or did he just take everything and give the bare minimum in return? Overgiving doesn't prove your worth. It drains your light. You don't have to perform to be loved. And you never have to break yourself into pieces just to keep someone who's only halfway in. If you're reclaiming your power and stepping into your high-value era, share this with a friend who needs it too. Radiant rebels stick together. And don't forget to subscribe, because this glow up, it's just getting started.